When a storm strikes, it often changes the rhythm of an entire city in just a few hours. Over the past 2 days, Typhoon Tapah did exactly that as it brushed past Hong Kong, swept into southern China, and disrupted life across Macau. Schools were closed, flights grounded, and tens of thousands of people forced to leave their homes. This is the story of how Typhoon Tapah unfolded, the damage it caused, and the response that followed. Typhoon Tapah moved across the South China Sea before making landfall on the southern coast of China on Monday morning. Although it weakened into a tropical storm before landfall, it still brought strong winds, heavy rainfall, and widespread disruption to millions of people. The storm passed closest to Hong Kong late Sunday night into early Monday, before making landfall near Taishan in Guangdong Province around 8:50 a.m. local time on Monday. From there, it moved inland, carrying powerful gusts and heavy rain across the Pearl River Delta region. In Hong Kong, the authorities raised the Typhoon Signal No. 8, the city's third highest storm warning, as Tapah swept by about 170 kilometers away. This alert level meant that schools and most businesses had to remain closed. Public transport came to a near standstill. Ferries, buses, and trams were suspended, while the Mass Transit Railway, or MTR, continued operating but at a reduced frequency. Roads were left eerily quiet as the city hunkered down. At the airport, the impact was immediate. More than 100 flights were canceled, leaving travelers stranded overnight. In one incident, an aircraft veered slightly off the runway and onto the grass during landing. Thankfully, no injuries were reported. Authorities also received over 100 reports of fallen trees and minor flooding across the city. Emergency workers were dispatched to clear roads and check drainage systems, ensuring that blocked routes did not create larger problems. Despite the disruptions, Hong Kong was spared the worst. By Monday morning, officials confirmed that the city had avoided major flooding or landslides, though rain and strong winds lingered into the day. On the mainland, Tapah's impact was stronger. The storm made landfall near the city of Taishan in Guangdong Province. Local governments had already moved quickly, ordering mass evacuations in low-lying and vulnerable areas. According to reports, around 60,000 residents in Guangdong were evacuated ahead of the storm. Schools were closed, and train and ferry services were suspended. This preemptive action helped reduce the risk to lives as Tapah pushed inland. The storm triggered flooding in some neighborhoods and caused trees and power lines to collapse. Authorities received dozens of emergency calls, from families trapped in flooded homes to motorists stranded on waterlogged roads. Images from the region showed streets submerged in waist-deep water in certain towns, forcing residents to wade through currents with their belongings held
above their heads. Some communities had to rely on rescue boats to move the most vulnerable, including children and the elderly, to safety. Across the Pearl River Delta in Macau, the story was similar. The territory issued the Typhoon Signal No. 8, keeping it in place until mid-afternoon on Monday. All non-higher education classes were suspended, and public services were temporarily shut down. Macau's public buses and light rail systems stopped running, and even the shuttle services across the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge were suspended during the height of the storm. Dozens of flights at Macau International Airport were cancelled, stranding travelers and forcing many to wait in crowded terminals until conditions improved. Officials also issued a blue storm surge warning, the lowest of the 3 warning levels for coastal flooding. Low-lying areas were put on alert as tides rose, and residents were urged to stay away from seafront districts during the peak hours of the storm. While there were no confirmed large-scale casualties in Hong Kong or Macau, the storm still disrupted countless lives. Families were forced into temporary shelters. Travelers slept in airport terminals, and thousands of children missed school as authorities prioritized safety.
In Guangdong, the evacuation of tens of thousands showed the seriousness of the storm's threat. Stories emerged of residents helping one another to secure homes, move belongings to higher ground, and assist elderly neighbors who could not leave on their own. Emergency hotlines in Hong Kong and Guangdong reported a steady flow of calls, from reports of flooding in housing estates to people requesting assistance after trees had blocked entrances to their homes. These small but significant incidents reflect the personal toll of a storm, even when its overall damage appears moderate.
So far, confirmed damage across the region includes hundreds of fallen trees, flooded roads, suspended power lines, and transportation chaos. In Hong Kong, the suspension of ferries, buses, and trams showed just how quickly the city's lifelines can be interrupted. The airport incident with the plane underscored the dangers of landing and takeoff during typhoon conditions. In Guangdong, localized flooding damaged homes, and some power outages were reported. The full assessment of damage is still being carried out by local authorities. Early reports suggest infrastructure such as roads and bridges held up, though clearing debris and restoring power remains ongoing. Authorities across Hong Kong, Guangdong, and Macau moved quickly as Tapah approached. The early issuance of storm signals allowed residents to prepare. In Hong Kong, shelters were opened for those who needed refuge. In Guangdong, tens of thousands of residents were evacuated, with government support to provide food, water, and temporary housing. In Macau, the suspension of transport services and storm surge warnings were crucial in minimizing risks to residents living near the coast. Emergency workers continue to monitor rainfall, as lingering bands from Tapah are expected to bring more showers into Tuesday. The so-called train effect, a weather pattern where rain clouds line up one after another, could prolong heavy rain in some areas. This remains a concern for flooding and landslides in the coming days. Typhoon Tapah may not have been the strongest storm to hit southern China, but its effects were deeply felt across Hong Kong, Macau, and Guangdong. Tens of thousands of people were displaced. Transport was thrown into chaos, and countless families had to adjust their lives overnight. The response from emergency services and local authorities has helped minimize casualties so far. But as rain continues, the situation remains fluid, and communities are urged to stay alert. For now, the focus is on recovery, clearing debris, restoring services, and supporting the many people who were forced from their homes. Typhoon Tapah serves as another reminder of how quickly life can change when a storm arrives. Emergency efforts continue, and help is still needed in many areas.